Hi, and welcome to the 505 cast. I'm Dave Kirkpatrick. Today we begin a new tradition where the guest is picked by the previous guest. So Pete Allery, who was guest number one, chose as the next guest one of the godfathers of the 505 class. He's been involved with the class since forever. He's been on the podium at the Worlds a couple of times, including a big win. He's won North Americans more times than I can count. I can't really count that high, but still. He's won the Europeans. He's sailed with most of the greats in the class, certainly sailed against most of the greats in the class. He has been a promoter of the midwinters since forever. He's a graduate of the greatest college sailing program that there is. And he's just one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. You have to excuse us if we divert into bike riding. You can see a bunch of wheels behind me. That's the day job. Ethan is also sick into bike riding. So please join me in welcoming Ethan Bixby to the 505 cast. Start it off. So I'm here with Ethan Bixby for episode 2 of the 505 cast, and welcome and thank you for joining me. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Thanks.
Yeah. So your 50 history goes back, a long way, but let's talk about your sailing history for a second. You grew up in Florida, right?
Yeah, I grew up on the East Coast of Florida, and I sailed, Optimus a little bit and sailed with my parents a little bit, and then I ended up meeting some people that lived really close to sail the head of 505, John McNeil, and this other guy, Bill Smith, and I started steering for Bill Smith when I was probably 10 or 11 or 12 or something like that, because he was a really big guy and his kids were too young. So he would take, I'd get the Traveler. No, he'd get the Traveler and the jib sheet, and I'd get the main sheet. It was really fun because I didn't know much about it, but I always sort of wanted a windmill, but this opportunity came up, and then I ended up mowing lawns and delivering newspapers and buying John McNeil's Parker for $1,200 or something like that, and then I had to find a crew, and I asked my sister, "Do you know one that sails in the high school?" And she said, "This guy named Larry Tuttle, he's a surfer, but I think he sails." So that's where I got together with Larry and started sailing that boat.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was quite a fun thing. And, we just sailed locally for the most part. And then
Right.
Went to a North Americans in Barrington, Rhode Island, I think, one summer. I think we're about 15 or 16 then. And it was a blast.
And were there a lot of 50 sailing locally in Florida then?
We probably had 4 or 5 boats. Yeah,
okay.
It wasn't big. Yeah. But, then they started hosting the midwinters.
Right.
For years and years. And then I've kind of taken that over the last, 25 years or so.
Yeah.
So it's a long history in that regatta too. So
the first
college and started sailing.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, then I went to college in New England and started sailing 50s in that area.
Right. So you went to Tufts.
Yep.
And that must have been like a street fight at practice every day. I mean, you had Neil, you had.
Oh yeah.
Peter, who else do you have?
Yeah, just Sam Altucher, a whole bunch of people. It was just that. And yeah, the practices were always harder than the weekends for sure. More competitive.
That was definitely my experience.
Yeah, it was fabulous. And Joe Duplin was quite the coach. He didn't say a whole lot, but it was always pretty on target.
Right on. That's great.
You could ask him questions, but he wasn't a real active coach in that way.
Right. Kind of similar with Kenny, but
yeah, not really.
Kenny will wind you up into a weird place.
Yeah.
But back to Larry for a second. So you guys went. There's some cool databases out there with old results and stuff, but. Yeah. You guys went to the 75 Worlds in Bermuda.
Yep.
Did you have driver licenses yet? And you guys did well.
I don't think so. Well, we might have. You had them pretty young then in Florida. Yeah, I don't remember how we ended up, but it was, a great experience. And then I think in '76, I think we won the North Americans.
And you got second at the Worlds.
Then we got the U.S. Sailing sponsorship, a little money help to go to the Worlds. And then we got second in France. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. And that was before you were doing any sailmaking. That was before Larry was doing any.
Yep.
So what?
Larry had built, at that point, he'd built I think it was the Butler hull, but he had built his first boat.
Okay.
Based on a Butler hull. Bought a Bear hull from Butler and built it.
And you guys rigged it out and.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yep.
So then you graduate Tufts and you went to work for Hood, right?
Well, I took a semester off from Tufts and went to work for Van Zandt.
Oh, okay.
Who I'd worked with a bit on sales and is still a lifelong friend.
And that was in like Mystic?
Yeah, Mystic, Connecticut, old Mystic, Connecticut.
Right on.
And then I started working at Hood's, I think maybe the summer before I graduated, the year before I graduated.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I went to work for Hood afterwards, and they want us to start up a one design department.
Oh, okay, cool. So at that point, Hood was like the dominant cup sailmaker and
big boat, but no one design stuff.
That was like going to work for IBM, right?
Yeah, no, it was great, and there's so many resources. That was a great thing, and working with any large companies that way. But at that point, Hood was just fabulous for that. I mean, there are people you can communicate all over the world about stuff.
Right.
And it was really pretty helpful.
And you were in Marblehead for that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So at Ground Zero.
And we were living at Larry Rosenfeld's place. Remember Larry Rosenfeld?
Yep.
Sailed 5.0s, and he ended up doing their sail design software and working for Hood Cloth, and we started sailing together after a while, and we were too light, but it was fun.
Cool. So and
must have been about 79 or 80, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
79 probably.
And coincident with that, you have all those guys working with Mark Lindsay.
Yes. Yep.
In Gloucester. So, I mean, that must have been like.
It was fabulous. There was so much going on.
Yeah.
Great. It was really, and there's just so many good people sailing in the class, with Steve Taylor and Benj and Stan Honey and Dave Penfield and, the whole Yik Yik Mafia.
Right.
It was really fun.
So were you guys like all at one of the clubs and going out regularly?
You traveled.
Okay.
They had a pretty good group down there, and then there was a group up in Marblehead. But basically, you traveled to regattas.
Right.
There's really no fleet racing.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, we're seeing a little bit of that now, but that's kind of been the.
Great. Yeah, it's really good.
The history of it.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, it is. So then, for the 1981 Worlds, you hook up with Cam.
Yep. Cam and I decided to get together and sail, and he had a boat built, and we rigged it out, and then started sailing it.
Right.
Trying to figure it out.
So was that kind of a one and in deal for the 81 Worlds, or did you guys?
No, it's a lot more than that. Just that I couldn't do the 82 Worlds, so that I wish I could have, but I couldn't. So
yeah. Well, I mean, a side note, like Gary kept your place kind of warm.
Yeah, exactly.
Back there.
Except for I didn't know how to do it, so it was good.
That's pretty neat. So that was a 4 or 5 year string of American and packing the podium.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's because there were just so many good people pushing each other. As I always say, it's really hard to get a lot better than the people you race against. If you race against a real low level group, you're never refine your skills very much. But you get pushed a lot, everyone gets better.
Right.
That's what happened. I think that's what happens on the West Coast now, because they've got a real good group out there.
Yeah. I mean, if you won the Tuesday night, you beat a world champ to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably the world champ to do it.
Right. Multiple.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So had sailmaking kind of always been part of the plan, or was that?
Yeah, I was really interested in sailmaking. I did independent study in high school, and then and I just really loved it. I was always interested in it, so that kind of became my goal. So I just loved it. It worked out really well. Had a great time at Hood. I went cruising for a couple of years. We bought a cruising boat and went cruising, and then resettled in Florida and went to work for a company called Johnson Sales.
Uh-huh.
And then in '86 went to work for North.
Okay. And have you been like at Hood? I'm assuming that if you were so involved with the one design department, like the sales that you were using with Cam, those were probably your sales, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And
Yep.
so you're like soup to nuts on the floor.
Yep. Yep. Always. And actually, even up until when I left the loft, I love making sales. So yeah, I'd be doing the design work. I didn't cut them typically because we have a cutter.
Right.
And sometimes I cut them, but sometimes other people. I'd always tape them and do a lot of stuff involved in them. So I like it. It's fun. I like building stuff.
Yeah, I do too.
I can only sit behind a phone for so long,
Yeah, and I get, North is kind of everybody's out selling all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's taken you into a lot of different areas of the sport, right? You've been involved in big boats. You've been.
Yeah, no, I did. I got hooked up doing some professional sailing, kind of when it was, I guess, just sort of starting. I guess starting back with Mum 36s and stuff before that.
Yeah.
And then I just got in with some great teams and great people. Did a lot of sailing with Robbie Haynes and Pyewacket. And Robbie was our tactician for George Andriotis' team on Atlanta.
Right.
So that was, Mum 36s, FAR 40s, Corel 45s, ILC boats, all kinds of different things, TP 52.
Right.
And then, I'd also, running a small loft, you really have to juggle a lot. So you're doing that, plus you're trying to run the business and sell local sales also. So it was quite challenging.
Right.
to juggle it all.
So what were you taking into and back out of those boats from 505s? Like what was working for you in other boats? And
I think more than anything, probably just communication.
Okay.
They're pretty different. They're different parts of the sport.
Yeah.
But still, a lot of the tactics are the same, and they're different because of the way the boats respond. A 5.0, you can go high and slow or low and fast, and sometimes they work out about the same.
Right.
Most big boats, you can't do that because
Right.
they don't plan upwind. So you don't have as many options and stuff. And they're obviously very different downwind, but.
Right. What kind of roles were you normally on the bigger boats? Were you trimming?
Almost always, I was a headsail trimmer and spinnaker trimmer.
Okay.
With a little bit of navigation and mast tuning and instruments involved.
All right.
Yeah. So it just depended on what was going on. So.
Always have a second skill.
Yeah.
So, and you've actually done a bunch of crewing in 5.0s as well, right? I mean,
a little bit, not a lot.
Okay.
A lot. I crewed a couple times for Larry Tuttle, and I think I've crewed for Allie Meller and made probably Larry Rosenfeld, a few people on and off.
Yeah.
But I'm still pretty light. I'm 165 pounds or something, so.
Yeah.
Light for the normal crew.
Yeah, boat tips over a lot.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So as far as I can tell in our conversations that we've had, you're kind of like not too much of a by the numbers guy. You're kind of a look and feel.
That's probably, yeah. You'd have to say, I'd have to agree with that.
And yeah. So do you think that?
I mean, I have calibration marks, on the boat, but yeah. I don't really use a grid for where I should be when.
Right.
I kind of use a lot of the usual telltale signals of, where your boom is and how the boat feels and that sort of stuff.
Right. Do you feel like most people or many people get too into the grid and kind of get stuck into that?
So it's good. It's a good starting point for sure. And
right.
That's where the real benefit is. And it helps you if you need to kind of go back to, ground zero because you're, things have changed and you don't know where you should be.
Right. So how do people kind of get themselves more, looking up and forward instead of back of the tank and looking at the grid?
I think you just have to get develop a sense of feel for it and what the big items are. Rake, obviously, board angle, mast bend, and where the boom should be and how the boat should feel.
Right.
And I think your good crews can tell you sometimes that the boat feels bound up. We need some more rake. The boat feels bound up.
That's always the word, isn't it?
It is. And, they feel it probably first. They can tell pretty quickly. And they've got the eyes on the fleet. And I rely on that a lot. Just tell me if we're high and slow or low and fast and, what's going on.
Right.
Because if I don't get that feedback, then, I can't adjust. I may be thinking this is great, but then I'm having too much fun and not going high enough.
Right.
So it's really helpful to have a crew that can tell you, what your performance is like and what the mode is like.
And while we're on the topic of crews, you've sailed with a lot of them. You've had a lot of success with a bunch of different crews. You've sailed with, Cam, who's kind of the crew.
Yep.
What really separates the greats from the not as greats, and how do you adjust as a skipper to all these different crews?
Well, I think one thing that I have to do is I trust them a lot to look around. I don't like to look around a whole lot. Once I've been sailing more, I can look around more. But if I haven't been sailing a lot, then I rely on them more than I should probably to tell me what's going on the other side of the fleet. What's going on over there, and how's our ladder rung looking, and I think when I first start off sailing with someone, I have to kind of calibrate what they see so that I understand, if they think this guy's lifted and, or whatever. So I can interpret and understand and have confidence in what they're saying. So I don't have to look.
Right.
So that's really important. The tacking, all the mechanical stuff, that comes pretty quickly. And I tend to, tack around the crew. I can tell how fast they're coming in. And I can work around that. Same with the jiving. That stuff just comes with time in the boat.
Okay.
As a team.
Right.
But the communication, and if things start getting quiet, I get worried. If I don't hear them talking or telling me information, then I go, uh-oh, what's going on?
Right.
It's important to have them, just keep chattering away of, where the puffs are and, how's their mode and, the guys inside of us lifting, are they down to us? Is it a good time to cross them or, whatever.
Right.
To me, that's really important because then I don't have to look around.
Yeah.
I can look at the compass and I can say, well, we're down, is this a good time to cross? Are the guys on our hip down too? Can we cross them now and go back to the side or whatever? I do the compass work, but the big rotations and stuff, that's what I want to know about.
Yeah.
And where the puffs are. Yeah.
Cool. So you've been at the game for a long time. How has your, from going 17-year-old or 16-year-old in Bermuda to now older than that, how has your style of sailing and how has your approach to the game changed?
It's more of I'm not as avid about it. I mean, I used to sail a lot more and much more serious about it. Now it's like, well, it looks like I can maybe do this regatta. I think I'll go.
Right.
Pull it together. So I don't practice as much. I don't, but it's hard going to an event not prepared because I know what it takes to get prepared. And I know, that you need to do that if you expect to do well. But sometimes I know I don't have enough time to, prepare or train or sail with a new crew or whatever. But sometimes it's like, oh, I just want to go to be there. So I'm getting better at that. I'm adjusting to that.
Okay.
Taking it for what it is.
Yeah. So, and then, you've been involved with North for a long time. And you've been, one of the class premier sailmakers for a long time, but I can't really imagine that, the business of being the North 505 sailmaker, like you're probably having to beg, borrow, and steal time to go sail 5.0s from.
No, I retired 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not involved in the loft really at all.
Okay.
And I tend to help them out with a few things every once in a while, but less and less. And I think what's probably going to happen is it's going to be more North Sails One Design oriented and North Sails Europe oriented.
Okay.
also, looking forward. So,
Huh.
that's, I think that's sort of the direction it's going. It's been going that way for a while.
Yep.
And I've worked with them a lot, and they've got a lot of the designs, and they've made sales for other parts of the world also of our designs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how much has the North? I mean, now with the Cup, can we call it the Aero package?
Right.
Like, how much has the North 50 shape changed in the past?
Um,
You know.
the jib, not a lot. I haven't changed it in a while,
Right.
and I haven't actually seen what the Europeans, what the English are doing, so I don't know what they've done.
Okay.
But I think they've liked a little bit flatter jib than what we normally run.
Okay.
But I don't think it has anything to do with the America's Cup stuff.
Well, I mean, I just like the nomenclature, the Aero package.
Yeah, the above the deck package. Well,
Yeah.
all the tools are there to do that stuff, and I've set that up a little bit in the design software, but it takes someone that really knows it to really do it well.
Right. And is that software used throughout the system?
Yeah, yeah.
On one package?
But the when you start integrating the rig into it, that's a lot harder. There's not as many people that do that part of it.
Okay.
That's harder, but it's pretty fascinating. I mean, because you actually have to set the rig tensions and tune the rig and all that to make, otherwise it falls down. But it's pretty amazing software, actually.
And how much control do we've got really 3 popular masts that people are using right now. Are they pretty, how similar is one alto to another, or
I think the Proctor stuff is pretty similar, pretty consistent in my understanding.
Yeah.
I don't think the super spars are quite as consistent, but I don't know. There's people who have gotten a lot more, data on that stuff than I do.
Right. Okay.
One
of the things,
bigger differences in how I think people rig their boats than the spars.
Okay.
In terms of spreader heights, hounds heights, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And chain plates. Yeah.
And speaking of how people rig their boats, you've kind of always been a tack forward guy, huh?
I like it. Yeah.
What about it?
I like the projected area. Just makes sense to me. One thing I really like is it moves the jib system forward to the thwart. So it cleans up the cruise area immensely, and you've got very repeatable stuff easily.
Okay.
So that part I like a lot better. When one of my crews gets on a boat with a launcher, it's like, whoa, wait, all this stuff's way back in my way now. So it's a much cleaner boat physically. Other than that, there's not much in it.
Any downside?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
No, not that I can. Not that I think. Yeah, we're a minority.
You played around with an A sail for 50s for a while.
Yeah.
Whatever became of that?
Still have it. It changes the boat, a bit. It simplifies a lot of stuff. I still think it's probably a good way to go for the class, but it takes a little bit of the premium off of the super crew.
Right.
It's a lot easier to tack or jibe in particular. The boat handles, I think, really nicely, and the sail that we made was just the same surface area as a regular symmetric sail, and we didn't try to make it any bigger or anything.
Okay.
And it's been used a lot. I've used it a lot, and a few other people, mounted on their boat. Ours is a kind of a bolt-on system that Larry made up.
Yeah.
And we've done, it's raced in the midwinters quite a few times with a couple different people, and in certain conditions it's great, it's fabulous, but it's in certain conditions it's going to be a little slower.
Right.
It just depends, but you could fix that, or if it's all relative anyway. But boy, you sure do get rid of a lot of stuff in the boat.
Yeah.
And a normal crew can handle it much better, and you can go out in a big breeze and just rip off jibes all day long and not be a problem.
Huh.
So that part I think is a real benefit to the class.
Right.
For the average sailors, it'll affect the average sailors, middle of fleet guys more. because they can go out in heavy air and have a lot more confidence in having a good day, not swimming.
Right. We talked a little bit about the difficulty of having, kind of a local fleet and fleet racing. But it seems like you guys have gotten that established more or less in St. Pete, right?
A little bit. Nathaniel Plant is great because he sails the boat all the time.
Right.
If it's windy, he's going to go out. And but the reality is, like, Lynn has a boat, but he pretty much sails events.
Okay.
I'm sort of the same way. I'll rig it up and sail a few times before an event. So really, Nathaniel's the only one that really goes out for fun and to sail. And there's really no support for club racing locally, for Club One design sailing. So it's hard to, just go to a regular, even a bi-weekly, Portsmouth regatta.
Right.
There's nothing like that around here.
Yeah, that's too bad. We're gonna have, actually, like in Mike Zani's little neighborhood, we're probably gonna have 6 boats through the spring.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, we're all like,
yeah,
how did this happen? This is great. But it's, I think temperature wise, it's pretty similar. It's not like we're going out for the Tuesday night series at the club.
Right.
We're kind of all doing that to get better, to go to events more.
Well, if you've got that sort of that group together, I think it makes sense to try to focus it more. A regular time and a regular, agenda, sort of.
Yeah.
Try to work on some specific things if you can. I think it's worthwhile. Yeah. The problem is, like, in the summer I go north, and it's hot down here, and sailing down here is not that great anyway in the summer. So.
Yeah, in the winter it's pretty good.
It's fabulous, yeah. Yeah.
So this was the first midwinters since God knows when that they didn't have an event, and you've been the driving force behind that, for as long as I'm aware of. Like,
I think I lost you there for a second.
So you've been the driving force. Oh, we're good. You've been the driving force behind midwinters, forever. What's going right when the regatta scene is healthy, and is that something that's more externally affected, or?
Some of it's timing when we host the regatta, and that's we're kind of been settling in on using Clearwater Community Sailing Center,
right?
And they've got a pretty busy schedule. So if we can get in the schedule at the right times, we kind of tried to move away from Super Bowl weekend, and actually I think moving later tends to help the breeze a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
We might try to push it back a week or two next year.
Okay.
But we do have the ability, we've talked about it the last couple of years, of hosting more than one event. It can be a training week, weekend, 2 weeks ahead, 3 weeks ahead. There's boat storage, all that's really easy and inexpensive to do. So in their post-COVID, maybe next year we can do it. Come up with 2 events.
Yeah, from your lips.
After Bermuda Worlds, you have to think about how much time and money people can spend on it. But that'll be a memory by then, and they can
yeah,
gear up for the next one.
And so many classes have had, the Etchells do it, the J70s at Davis Island. They kind of drag your boat down once and then get a lot of value out of that one trip.
Yeah. And Clearwater is a great place to sail. I think most of us like it a lot. I think there's certainly something to be said to go to Miami or something, but in terms of make a comfortable, easy place to deal with, Clearwater is fabulous.
Yeah.
And we have more housing opportunities around here, which helps.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
That helps a whole lot.
Yeah.
So what's on your plate for this year? Are you going to be, what do I have to do to convince you to come to Newport?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to get my boats north. I'm trying to see if I can do the NAs and sail with Chris.
Yeah.
Chris Brady. He's not sure if he can do the Worlds or not. Eric couldn't do either one of them. Eric Booth. And so then I said, well, if I'm going to have the boat up there, maybe I'll get down. Maybe I'll sail the East Coast Championships on my drive north. So I don't know. There's lots of things to figure out. I got to balance it with bike trips and other things. So.
Bike trips are important.
They are important. Got to blend them in. Yep.
Right on.
It's a possibility. We'll see.
Okay, great. Well, I don't want to take your entire day here, and thank you so much for coming on. And it's been really fun to talk and get to know you better. One last super important question: who's the next guest?
Macy Nelson.
Fantastic choice.
He said he'd do it, so.
All right, great.
He's been a great supporter of the class for many, many years, and he'd be great. So.
All right.
Yeah,
super.
Yeah, good.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thanks a ton, Ethan.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.